Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3903BN. Today's date is May 12th, 2026, and the title of the episode is Deep State is Getting Destroyed at Every Turn. All roads lead to the Renegade. At dawn, Trump wins. Now, you know, it's very interesting. If you're like me and you're getting to that age where your body just feels sluggish and off all the time, then listen up. Because Dr. Josh explains that most of the time, this is caused by clogged liver. You probably already heard about how important your liver is for detoxification, digestion, and energy levels. But here's the thing. Most people have no idea how clogged and overburdened the liver actually is. Eating processed food, drink, and even stress, these things can take a toll, leaving your liver clogged. And it's important not to let this go unchecked because your liver is the most important organ in your body, being responsible for the proper function of nearly every system in your body, from digestion to metabolism to detoxification. Essentially, a healthy liver equals a healthy you. That's why Dr. Josh, a practicing doctor with over 25 years medical experience, formulated a special liver supplement called Ultra Liver that acts like a deep cleanse for your entire body. He told me that Ultra Liver just crossed over 500,000 bottles sold and has received thousands of 5-star reviews from happy customers and patients. So say goodbye to chronic fatigue, bloating, and skin, and say hello to renewed energy, clear thinking, and a body that is operating 100% again. And this is powerful stuff. You're not going to get results like this from any random liver supplement. Dr. Josh put his 25 plus years of experience into Ultra Liver to make sure that it actually does what it's supposed to. So if you're ready to unclog your liver and flush the dangerous toxins that are sapping your energy and preventing you from losing weight, just go to tryultraliver.com/X22 to get your hands on Ultra Liver today. By the way, it's your lucky day because Dr. Josh is running a summer sale where you can get up to 50% off Ultra Liver for a limited time. But this special offer is only available through our link for our audience. The link is right below this video in the description box. Do yourself a favor and go click it and take back control of your liver health today. That is tryultraliver.com/X22. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech, fake news, the puppet masters. You can see at every turn the deep state players are getting destroyed. Everything Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the rest are trying to do, it is not working. And you can see that they are now panicking because, again, when they try to gerrymander, when they try to use their sleepers, when they try to push their agenda, it is all failing around them. And Trump is letting everyone know that all roads lead to the renegade. And who is the renegade? It is Obama. It's the Manchurian candidate. And again, he's the one who chose his U.S. Secret Service name. And you have to ask a simple question. Why would he pick renegade, which means traitor, deceiver? Because I think we all know why. Because he is the one who is trying to destroy America. And Trump, he just put out post after post after post pointing the finger at Obama, letting us know that this is where all of this is headed. He's going to be removing Obama. He'll be arrested in the end. Maybe he'll try to escape. Maybe he'll try to escape to Kenya. But you can see that this is where all this is headed. And every step of the way, what Trump is doing across the globe, he's shutting down everything that they set up. And this is why they continually fight back with everything they have. Will they try a pandemic? Well, they're going to try. Will they succeed? Absolutely not. They don't have control over social media. They don't have control over HHS. They don't have control over the CDC. They don't have the control that they had before. Now, the WHO can push it. They can make other countries go along with it. They can put out parameters saying this is what we want you to do because it's spreading. But I do believe the pandemic that they're pushing right now is built into the vaccines. I think there's many diseases where they could push a pandemic that's built into the vaccines. But again, this is where it's going to fall apart because, again, we have two different groups right now. You're going to see all of those people, they're always going to test positive for maybe the hantavirus or something else. And the people that do not have the vaccine, they're going to be fine. They won't get sick. Everything will be okay. Now, I think this is blown up a lot larger than it really is because, again, what do they have to do? They have to make it seem like it's a lot worse than it really is. Now, do I think this is the only thing that they'll be using as we move forward? No. I think they're going to be throwing everything at we the people, the Trump administration, because they realize that everything that they have done has not worked. Everything that they tried, Trump has destroyed. either through the Constitution, through the rule of law, through the Supreme Court, you name it, it is not working. And what do they see happening out in Iran? They see their entire proxy army, their terrorist army. It's all being destroyed. And they will not have that anymore. Just like they don't have Venezuela. And soon they will not have the cartels, the gang members throughout the other countries in Central America and South America. It is all falling apart around them. And I do believe Trump, he is now making them feel the pain every step of the way. And now Trump is now flying off to China to let Xi Jinping know everything the World Economic Forum has done, everything the central bank has done, everything the deep state has done to shift the economic system into China, that is not happening. Because think about what they've done. They've pushed Australia, New Zealand, the European countries, Canada, and many other countries into the Green New scam. And they have no way of producing energy. They don't have the energy to manufacture. And this was all done on purpose. So eventually what would happen, everything would move to China. Trump now has shut all that down. Trump is now letting Xi Jinping know that, hey, there's a new economic system coming online, and it's not the one you think. Why do you think he brought the people that he brought? He didn't bring a lot of politicians. He brought CEOs, bankers, those people in the technological field, Elon Musk, because again, these people are going to say, this is where all of this is headed, and everything is about to change. Now, like we said before, the deep state players, they're trying to hold on as best they can, especially here in the United States. And let's include UK, Germany, France, and the rest, because they're having a major problem themselves. Their poll numbers are so low that the people are saying, hey, we need you out, especially with Starmer. But again, you could see that they will do whatever they possibly can in this country to try to stop Trump. And yes, we might, like we said before, they might push a pandemic. They'll try that. Maybe there'll also be a cyber attack. Maybe there'll also be riots. Maybe they'll push everything they possibly can just to create the biggest distraction that the world has ever seen. But in the end, all of this is not going to work because Trump and the Patriots, they know the playbook. Remember, Trump has the leverage. They don't. And eventually what we're going to see is we're going to see a battle of information. Because again, the WHO and other countries, they're going to put out information, and Trump's team is going to put out information. Doctors on social media are going to put out information. Even if we have a cyber attack, even if we have a nuclear scare, they don't have the leverage or the narrative that they had before. And Trump, he has the people. Remember, he's the counterinsurgency. It's made up of the president. It's made up of the military. It's made up of the people. So when you see them pushing a pandemic, when you see them pushing a cyber attack, when you see them pushing a riot, this is all part of the insurgency. You see, without the people on Trump's side, and the people were still on the side of the deep state or listening to the fake news, or we only half the people, it'd be very, very difficult to send the information to the people and the people say, yes, you know what, we believe you. Because every step of the way, what does Trump prove to the people? That he is right. He's leading us in the direction that benefits the people. And the people have learned in the past, the deep state players, the fake news, they just continually lie and lie and lie. So this is why the counterinsurgency will work. This is why the people had to be on his side. This is why he had to show everyone the truth. And now people understand. And this is why at dawn, Trump will win. He'll win against all of these people. We'll be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about what's happening with the pedo networks and everything else. Because remember a long time ago when Trump talked about trafficking, child trafficking, women trafficking, he says this is a very ancient thing, but they use the internet today. He was even at the UN speaking about trafficking, and he let the deep state players know it's over and we're shutting it down. So Trump, he put this out. It says children were trafficked under mass migration. Any system that results in the mass trafficking of children is inherently evil. Yet, that is exactly what the globalist migration agenda has done. In America, those days are over. Then he reposted Irish Patriot, 300,000 children. But we know this is only the tip of the iceberg of how many women and children globally are suffering these same atrocities. The globalist migration agenda. Listen up, Ireland, UK, Europe, Australia, Canada, and so many more. It is now over. Trump is now shutting it all down. And the people are going to be completely and utterly with him. So once again, everything the deep state players have set up, it's being dismantled, destroyed. And you can see the installed leaders, fake leaders, they're having a very, very difficult time across the globe. Think about Starmer right now. Starmer is refusing to resign. He is now blocking visa entry for any political opposition. Wait, isn't that the definition of a dictator or a king? Isn't this what Maduro was doing? Isn't this what Zelensky does? Trump didn't do this. Actually, wait a minute. Didn't Obama, Biden, Hillary Clinton, isn't this what they were doing to Trump? Trying to bring down the opposition? Absolutely. Eva Vlanderbroek says Starmer has just admitted he banned me and other commentators from traveling to the UK because we would set back communities. Yet mass third world migration doesn't bother him, as it only sets back the one community he doesn't give a rat's ass about, the white native population. So basically, he's banning everyone, shutting down the political opposition, because again, he's losing the support from the people. And the people, they don't want him anymore. Actually, there are 85 Labor MPs. They have now called for Keir Starmer to resign. The people are rising up. The people have had enough. And you can see this is going to happen with Macron. It's going to happen with Merz. It's going to happen with the president of Spain. It's going to happen with all of these different countries, even in the EU organization where the people actually don't vote for the president of the EU. That is also going to change. And you can see that these people have never been on the side of the people. They've been on the side of the deep state players every step of the way. And what's very interesting is that the UK Victims Minister, Alex Davies-Jones, resigned, saying in her letter to Starmer, I implore you to act in the country's interest and set out a timetable for your departure. So once again, the people in government, they're not even sticking around anymore because they realize that this guy is not working for the people. He's working for the deep state players. And this is across the globe. This is why these countries, and I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about the installed people, they are not our allies. They are our enemies. Trump showed the world that they are truly the enemy of the United States. Because again, when Trump asked to use the bases to, hey, maybe you can assist us, they rejected every step of the way. And once again, he had to show the people the truth. And this is who Trump is actually fighting against. Who do you think is giving Iran the marching orders? It's the deep state. It's the central bankers. It's these people. This is why they didn't want to get involved, because they'd be fighting themselves, wouldn't they? That's very interesting. And the next country to fall is Cuba. Trump put this out on Truth. He says, no Republican has ever spoken to me about Cuba, which is a failed country and only heading in one direction, down. Cuba is asking for help, and we're going to talk. In the meantime, I'm off to China, President DJT. So Trump is letting everyone know that no Republican has ever spoken to him about Cuba. This is him emphasizing that he's driving this personally. It's not some pre-existing GOP agenda or advice from the party insiders. No one in his own party was pushing him on this. The opening came because Cuba is desperate under his pressure. He's framing it as his solo win. Absolutely. And you can see there's so much pressure on Cuba that you're going to see that the communist regime is going to fall, just like the Iran proxy army eventually is going to fall. Now, before we get to that, we know that Senator Mark Kelly, he is treasonous to this country, and he leaked top secret information. And once again, Cynical Publius has some words about this. He goes, I handled top secret information only a handful of times in my military career. Every time I did, I remember thinking to myself, why is this classified? Everybody suspects this is true. It's just common sense. But then I remembered that the reason the data was classified was so that no one in the know would or could ever confirm or deny whether common sense suspicions were actually true. That is the power of security classifications. My point is this. It does not matter whether or not anyone has a common sense suspicion that stores of precision munitions might be depleted. When Kelly officially verified that suspicion at the individual munition level, he created a grave breach of national security. Prosecute this traitor. Remember when some submariner went to the brig because he posted a picture from inside of a sub? This is far worse. Prosecute. And he's absolutely right. It is far worse. And think about the fake news continually receiving this classified information. Remember, the fake news, they're made up of a lot of CIA operatives, and they're more than happy leaking this information if it goes against Trump. Well, acting AG Tal Blanche says to the media asking about DOJ investigating the leaking of classified information, prosecuting leakers who share our nation's secrets with reporters, in turn risking our national security and the lives of our soldiers, is a priority for this administration. Any witness, whether a reporter or otherwise, who has information about these criminals should not be surprised if they receive a subpoena about the illegal leaking of classified material. Absolutely. And you can see, remember, in the past, all the leaking and everything, it was protected by the FBI, protected by the DOJ. Now, everything has changed. They are no longer protected anymore. And you can see this is what they're panicking about. Everything is changing. We have DOJ 2.0, FBI 2.0, DHS 2.0, ODNI 2.0, CIA 2.0, the executive branch 2.0. Everything is now changing. They are not in control. Now, there are going to be people along the way where Trump might have brought on and he has to remove them or they're forced to resign. But again, this is all about how the system works. Sometimes people trick you. Sometimes people say, hey, I'm right on board with you. I'm on your page. And then you find out that they aren't. It happens in business. It happens in real life. But again, overall, I think Trump has a good handle on the entire system and he knows how to direct all of this. Even if we see some certain individuals that might say, oh yeah, I'm with you, I'm America first, and all of a sudden they turn on him. I mean, we see it with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We've seen it with many other people. So I don't think this is that big of a deal because I think as major key players are in the position they need to be in. And the lower level that report to these people, they could be replaced very, very easily once they find out who they are. Now, the other thing that we could see is that the UAE, they has been secretly striking Iran, fighting along the U.S. and Israel. I think every single other nation in the Middle East should join in. And this would send a very, very strong message to the rest of the world that we are completely and utterly against Iran. So who would be for Iran? It would be UK, it would be Germany, it would be the EU and all the other countries. The countries that are against Iran would be the Middle Eastern countries and Israel and the US. I mean, really think about this for a second. So you could see who the true allies really are. And every step of the way, you could see Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he is putting more and more pressure on the Iran proxy army. He says, as Iran's military desperately tries to regroup, economic fury will continue to deprive the regime of its funding for its weapons programs, terrorist proxies, and nuclear ambitions. Treasury will continue to cut the Iranian regime off from the financial networks it uses to carry out terrorist acts and to destabilize the global economy. And every step of the way, they're making it very, very difficult for the proxy army of the deep state players to function. Right now, you could see that the U.S. now, and Tony Soroka put this out, slapped new sanctions on Chinese purchases of Iranian oil. And they're shutting everything down. Now, they're doing this as Trump is heading to China. Remember, China doesn't have the cheap oil anymore. That is gone. So China is in a very, very difficult position. Sean McLean says, I don't understand why people don't just see Trump as no reason to change his current strategy. No one has the naval assets to break his blockade. Iran can't make any money, and it's starving the Eastern world and Europe of oil. But that means they need to rely on oil from the Western Hemisphere, which the USA has hegemony control over. Trump is telling other nations they can do escort duty of tankers to non-Iranian ports, but the blockade remains. They should put pressure on the Iranians to capitulate. If they want their cheap oil supplies again, Trump can withstand any political fallout longer than Iran can keep this going. Eventually, the people will revolt, or another nation will do a ground invasion of Iran themselves. As long as Iran has no nuclear program, USA wins. If Iran collapses and a USA-friendly nation emerges, bonus points. So that's very, very interesting. Now, think about it. Trump continually mentions nuclear weapon. Now, I do believe that this is a cover story, and I think the Iranians said, hey, we are developing a nuclear weapon. I think Obama gave them the uranium, Hillary Clinton, along with this and many others, gave them the uranium to do this. Same thing with North Korea, most likely Venezuela and the rest, to create this fear tactic that they were going to use across the world. And if the Iranians actually said that they are on the cusp, or if you try to do anything, we'll use the nuclear weapon, this actually gave Trump the information that he needed to go into Iran. Now, if Iran actually had some type of archaic, dirty nuke or whatever they had, and they tried to use it as a last-ditch effort, it would prove to the world that he was right and everyone was wrong. I mean, he's right no matter what, because again, they were trying to create a nuclear weapon to basically keep the fear going in the Middle East, to control the energy prices, and to keep their terrorists across the world. Because remember, this was part of the plan. This is why Obama funded all of this. But Harold Finch says something very interesting. I have a working theory I am proceeding from. What if Iran made the claim privately to the U.S., Pakistan, Israel, and Gulf states that prior to their beginning of the war, that it assembled a nuclear weapon? The claims would be dubious, but would need to be hedged against. Is that why the recommencement of the war is being slow-walked? Because Iran made a nuclear threat or a radiological dirty bomb threat? Did U.S. Stratcom move an SSBN to the Mediterranean as a public and undeniable threat of immediate retaliation if Iran escalates in that way? Maybe, maybe not. The real Intel frog put this out and said, the U.S. Navy ballistic missile submarine USS Alaska, SSBN 732, that made a rare daylight European port call, has departed Gibraltar, headed eastbound, deeper into the Mediterranean Sea. The Navy takes great care to keep SSBN operations out of the public eye. This is a message. A message to who? To the deep state players. You try anything, you're done for. But we'll have to see how this all plays out. And maybe from the post, maybe this is the scare event. Maybe this is how all of this ends. But we'll have to see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. Because once again, if this should occur, it's going to prove that Trump is right again. Even if it doesn't, actually, I think it's going to prove that he's right no matter what. Because again, once Iran surrenders and we go in there and the new regime takes over, they're going to find out that, yes, they were trying to create a nuclear weapon, or maybe there is one that is already there. So no matter which way you look at this, I think Trump is going to be proven right. And once we get the uranium, it's going to show that Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the rest, they were the ones who assisted Iran in creating that weapon. And this is why Obama is panicking. This is why Hillary Clinton is panicking. This is why they're trying to do whatever they possibly can to try to win the midterms. But you can see that is completely and utterly falling apart. And think about what Trump has always said. The 2020 elections were rigged. And remember, they unleashed a virus across the globe to cheat in the election, to remove Trump, to overthrow the United States government. Yes, there's other agendas associated with it, which we could see today, where they gave everyone a vaccine because that is truly the real pandemic. But where was this virus created? Where were the other viruses created? Well, remember, when Russia went into Ukraine, what did they find there? They found biolabs. Right now, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, she's investigating 120 foreign biolabs funded by the U.S. government. More than 40 are located in Ukraine. Think about that for a second. 40 are in Ukraine. So keep in mind, DNI Gabbard recently took control of the CIA development of artificial intelligence, pulling in QTEL, the CIA-backed venture firm, under management of ODNI. Through a series of what seems like a well-coordinated move by Secretary Rubio, CIA Director Ratcliffe, and DNI Gabbard, a significant amount of the CIA's operation is no longer in the dark network. USAID has been dissolved. Rubio Ratcliffe, the Directorate of Analysis, taken out of CIA into ODNI. Ratcliffe Gabbard, the President's Daily Briefing, now assembled by the ODNI. Artificial Intelligence System in QTEL under ODNI management, and now Intelligence Community, CIA biolabs being identified, investigated, and potentially removed from operation. So let's go back a little bit in time, because once again, who was running these biolabs? Was it Anthony Fauci? Was he creating viruses there, transporting them over to China? That's interesting. Clandestine says, reminder, in 2022, the Russian military formally accused Obama, Biden, Hillary Soros, and more of developing biological weapons at U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine. If you think Trump and Putin have not discussed this topic, you're mistaken. Putin wants justice for Obama also. Then Clandestine says this, eventually the world will be shown that the wars in both Ukraine and Iran lead back to Obama. Obama offshored U.S. bioweapon development in 2014, mainly to Ukraine. Obama is also responsible for Iran's nuclear program. Everything leads back to Obama. He gave weapons of mass destruction to CIA deep state proxies. Obama is a terrorist that stole U.S. secrets and technology and put it in the hands of illegitimate deep state regimes. This is what it all comes down to. Everything Trump is doing revolves around cleaning up Obama's mess and foiling their plans to take over the world. Obama is essentially a Bond villain and put weapons of mass destruction in the hands of people who sought to hold the world hostage. And all roads lead back to the Renegade. That is what Trump is going after. Yes, he's going after the entire deep state system. But again, Obama is going to be the poster child of all of this. And you can see the deep state players, they've been instructed to push as many distractions as possible. And this is why the WHO, which the United States is not part of anymore, they're saying, and Tedros is out, they're expecting more cases of hantavirus to be announced due to the gap between the first case and when the virus was identified, as the passengers were interacting on the ship during this time. Now, I do believe the reason why they can test everyone, and it might seem like the hantavirus is spreading human to human, but again, through all the case studies, this is not true whatsoever. We could see already that Trump's administration in the medical field, they're already coming out and letting everyone know that this isn't true. The only reason they can push this type of narrative is because those people that have been vaccinated, they already have the hantavirus. So when they're tested, oh my God, this person has it, this person has it, and there's no rats or there's no rodents, there's no droppings on the ship. How did everyone get it? Oh, it must be airborne. So I do believe they're trying to convince the world this is what's happening right now. And again, here we are once again.
And we all know America loves sushi. Over the last 2 decades, raw fish consumption has exploded. Sushi bars are everywhere. Grocery stores and gas stations sell it, and millions of people now eat raw fish weekly. But there's a hidden risk most people never think about: parasites. Salmon is one of the most popular fish worldwide, but naturally contains more than 70 parasites. Most are tiny, nearly impossible to see, and they're making their way into the human body. Once inside, parasites can hide for years, while frequently laying eggs before any symptoms appear. This is why many physicians are raising awareness about parasite exposure. Dr. Peter McCullough recommends doing a parasite cleanse at least once a year as a preventative measure. The wellness company offers a hard-to-access RX Parasite Cleanse, USA compounded ivermectin and mebendazole. Ivermectin paralyzes the parasite's nervous system, while mebendazole starves them. Each capsule contains 25 milligrams of ivermectin and 250 milligrams of mebendazole, lab-tested for quality. You can now get a more budget-friendly 45-capsule option that costs $250 less, giving you two 21-day parasite cleanse cycles. Same formula as the original, just a smaller quantity. Head to twc.health/X22 and use code X22 to save $35 off plus free shipping. USA residents only, or just click the link in the description.
The question is, will the people of the world believe this? I think the majority of the people, they're not going to go along with this, especially with the U.S. pushing against this every step of the way. Because again, Trump's administration is not going to be on board. This time Trump can mention hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin. They can counter all of this very, very quickly. And all the doctors that were censored going back in time, they won't be censored this time around. Actually, when you look on X, when you look on Truth, when you look on Rumble, this is being debunked quite quickly. Now, the other thing that's very interesting is that Trump has now confirmed that Marty McElroy is resigning as the FDA commissioner. Trump says he was having some difficulty. He's a great doctor. He's a terrific guy. Everybody wants that job. He's going to go on and lead a good life. And again, you bring people in, people say, yes, I'm on board, and then they see the direction that we're headed. Remember, this is not business as usual. This is not, hey, let's just approve a couple of drugs. This is about reversing everything Big Pharma has done, everything the deep state players have done. And some people aren't up to the task. Some people can't go there. Some people just don't believe. And eventually you find out that, hey, they just can't handle it. And then they are removed or they resign. They say, okay, I'm done here. I can't go in this direction. I don't believe this. This is why Trump picked very specific people in the very, very beginning to lead the entire agency. Yes, there's other people below the agency, hoping that we can get the right people in there. But again, this is why he picked the trusted people to lead these certain agencies. And yes, Pam Bondi was one of those trusted people. She put everything into place. And this is why you see the indictments coming out now. Remember, there's many, many investigations going on. You have to remember, the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA, DHS, all these different agencies, they were infested. They were infiltrated by the deep state players. They had to be cleaned out. Are they completely and utterly clean? I think for the most part, but I do believe there are still sleepers that are still there. And actually, John Brennan kind of mentioned all of this. Now, do I think in every part of these agencies there are sleepers? I think a lot of them have been removed. A lot of them have been discovered. But I do believe there are certain ones that still remain. But for the most part, Cash, Blanche, Gabbard, Mark Wayne McMullen, I do believe they have the ability to do what's necessary. And if these sleepers show their faces, it's that much easier to get rid of them. Because I do believe the heads of these agencies, they are in control right now. And they will come down on these people very, very hard. And once again, you could see the deep state players, they are involved in the color revolution. Hey, remember, Obama is the shadow government, irregular warfare, color revolution, insurgency. And what's very interesting is Data Republican, once again, researched this and came up with what is really going on in the State Department and how they created a color revolution there. This is what she put out. International actors are involved in the State Department-led color revolution. This is not speculation. It's straight from a recorded call. Ex-USAID employees describe how, before January 20th, they moved internal groups off government systems and into encrypted signal chats, then quickly linked with foreign partners and NGOs after the inauguration. This attempt at creating a color revolution isn't new news. This part was already reported in Notice earlier this year, but what's not reported is the international aspect. One participant explicitly frames it as global anti-authoritarian movement, connecting U.S. officials with colleagues from around the world who have dealt with this directly. They reference coordination with Johns Hopkins, international democracy, and conflict mitigation spaces, and efforts to mobilize across borders against what they perceive as domestic authoritarianism. So at what point does this become treason? So at the end of the video, the we in reference to organizing the February 5th protest that was organized by Soros-backed groups 50501 and Indivisible. This is the first solid link I found connecting the No Kings movement, State Department, and Soros together. Ro Tucci herself goes on to talking about bringing in international actors to assist with the color revolution. Their role is going to be mobilizing around corruption. What does that mean? They justify the international aspect by claiming that the authoritarians are already globally networked. Senator Cotton, Lindsey Graham, Joni Ernst, Dan Sullivan, you're in the International Republican Institute. Are you aware of this effort? Lest you think it is harmless, they outright admit their goal is to create new socio-political economic governance system. If that's not a coup, I don't know what is. In partnership with I Am Lisa Logan and SK Double Dub 33, here's a thread from last night outlining what these new governance systems look like. National servitude, mass censorship, bottom-up transformation of elections. And this is the origin story thread, how this started with the billionaire network of Soros, Koch, Ford, Rockefeller, and more, how Charlie Kirk became an existential threat to them. So basically, they're planning a color revolution. And this all goes back to Soros. It goes back to Obama. It goes back to all of this. So again, you can see that they're preparing for something that is coming. They're preparing to try to create an insurgency that is just going to look absolutely crazy. And this is why Trump has spent a very long time creating the counterinsurgency, getting the people on his side, getting the military on his side, because this is how you fight against this. And I do believe in the end, we are going to win. Remember, Trump has been dismantling, removing their hardcore players. It's getting harder and harder for them. Just like when you look out in California. California was conquered just like Minneapolis, Minnesota. And you could see the Chinese, they brought in their people into this region to control that region. FBI Director Kash Patel says, Arcadian Mayor Eileen Wang in California has been charged with acting as an illegal agent of the People's Republic of China in the United States. Mayor Wang admitted to acting as a foreign agent from at least 2020 through 2022, promoting PRC propaganda in the U.S. and acting at PRC's direction to promote their interests. She has agreed to resign from her office and plead guilty. And our federal partners continue to move aggressively to root out this kind of influence in American institutions all over the country. So when you look at this and you look at Arcadia, and just like Minneapolis, you can see that these people in this country, they have conquered certain regions, some by Somalis, some by Chinese, some by others. So you could see what's been going on here. And if you look at the entire city of Arcadia, you could see there's a lot of Chinese people in office. So again, is the entire city compromised? I do believe so. Kevin Roberts says the following. To be clear, if our Supreme Court preserves universal birthright citizenship, countless Eileens would be flown to be born in America, then trained by the CCP to infiltrate the U.S., and our laws would provide them the benefits and protections of U.S. citizenship. That's absolutely true. Adam Johnston says, we opened the doors to Chinese espionage in the 90s, and now we're dealing with the consequences. Wang moved to Southern California from China 30 years ago. The amount of Chinese government infiltration within all levels of American society through decades of suicidal immigration and tech outsourcing is beyond comprehension. And remember, these players, they haven't been planning this, 5 years ago. This goes back a very long time. I do believe going all the way back to 1913, when they implemented the Federal Reserve. And moving forward, when we came off the gold standard in 1971, where we can go full fiat, where the central bank then could print and print and print, this way they could create their deep state system and what they wanted to do. And this was planned a long time ago, just like we're seeing all the illegals going into the countries across the globe. Remember, the deep state players, they don't do things in a 5 to 10 year span. They do this over a very long period of time because they know it takes a very, very long time to convince the people. Hey, how do you convince people going back 50 years ago that bringing all the illegals in is okay? Over time, you have to brainwash and educate the people in a certain way to make them think that this is okay, that this is normal. And let's go back a little bit in time. Andy No put this out. You remember that the late, long-time California Democrat, U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein, had a former chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, had a Chinese spy staffer working for her almost 20 years? I mean, she had a spy working for her for almost 20 years. Dianne Feinstein used to go to China. Think about that for a second. Remember out in San Francisco when Xi Jinping came to America? Why do you think back then the streets were lined with Chinese flags? Why do you think they cleaned it all up? Why do you think they removed the poop from the streets? Because again, the conqueror was coming in to the place that he conquered. That is what you were witnessing when you saw that. Just like in Minneapolis, when they raised the Somali flag, why do you think Waltz decided to change the state flag and it looked like a Somali flag? Because that area was conquered. California, San Francisco was conquered. It's the same exact thing. Geiger Capital says, it will soon be common knowledge that China had been pushing harmful policies from inside of our own country. DEI, absurd climate regulations, wealth taxes, soft on crime reforms, illegal immigration, and even the anti-standardized test movement. Remember, China does all this from the background. They don't come out and say, hey, this is what we're doing. They're stealth. They do it behind the curtain. They push their agenda to destroy a nation. And this is what the deep state players have been doing. Because remember, the plan was to move everything to China. So with America standing in the way, what do? You got to destroy it. That's what they were doing. And Obama, Soros, and the rest, they were all on board. But you can see that is all now coming to an end. And everything the deep state players that were trying to do, evidence now is coming out to show that they were the ones actually in line in doing all of this. Were they the masterminds? A lot of them were not. A lot of them just basically were paid off, blackmailed or whatever, but they were all doing the bidding of the higher ups. So when you look at Obama, when you look at Biden, yes, Obama might be the architect, but he's the mastermind of everything? Absolutely not. Again, these people, they were on board because, again, they were getting a lot of kickbacks. They were getting a lot of money. And think what just happened with Hunter Biden. Chuck Grassley put this out and said, Senator Johnson and I released today showing DOJ possessed text messages from Hunter Biden indicating potential trafficking, Mann Act violations records, support concerns we raised in our September 2020 Biden family report, plus show double standard of justice. Yeah, Hunter Biden, he was involved in trafficking. He was involved in all of this. He was working with hookers. He has many, many problems. And you could see that, again, there's two sets of laws or rules. And you can see that all of this is now coming up because, again, they are a crime family. And again, criminals, they bring on criminals. Criminals work with criminals. That's what you're witnessing. Now, the other thing that we could see is that President Trump nominated Kari Lake to serve as the next U.S. ambassador to Jamaica. And congratulations, Kari Lake, to getting this incredible position. Kari Lake, she put this out and said, thank you to President Trump for nominating me to serve as the next U.S. ambassador to Jamaica. Jamaica is a country I know very well, full of incredible people, and if confirmed by the Senate, I look forward to strengthening the partnership between our nations, advancing America's interest abroad, and building on the deep friendship shared by the American and Jamaican people. Honored to continue serving in this historic administration. Absolutely. And like we said before, John Brennan, he's saying that there are still legions of his allies and deep state operatives at the DOJ, FBI, and CIA. So that is very, very interesting. So this is not really a surprise. We knew there were sleepers within these agencies. I do believe Cash, Pam Bondi, Radcliffe, and the rest, they've been cleaning everything out as best they possibly can. Because you have to remember, there's always people that do not show you who they truly are until the time is right. These are called sleepers. And when they're activated, that's when you know who and what they are. But I do believe they've been tracking down as many people as possible. And you have to remember, these agencies are huge. There's 20, 30,000 people in these agencies or even more. So to go through every single one and make sure that you have the best of the best is going to be pretty darn impossible. So yes, could there be certain people in there that are still allies of the deep state players? Absolutely. But I do believe, like we said before, I do believe the people that Trump has put in a position, they are controlling their organization. So if anything does pop up, I do believe they will shut that down very, very quickly. Now, the other thing that we could see is that Comey is making his rounds on the fake news, and he basically refuses to talk about other evidence the federal prosecutors have against him. He only talks about the 8647. He doesn't talk about anything else. And you have to remember, count one, knowingly and willfully making a threat to take the life and to inflict bodily harm upon the president. Count two, knowingly and willfully did transmit in interstate and foreign commerce a communication that contained a threat to kill the president. So that's interesting. He's leaving out certain things. And again, this is done on purpose. But once again, in the end, you're going to see that everything that Comey has done, everything that Obama has done, everything that Hillary Clinton has done, Brennan and the rest, it's all treasonous to this country. And Trump, he is now pointing the finger at Comey, Obama, and continually showing the people they are treasonous to this country. This is what he put out in Truth, pointing to Wall Street apes. James Comey signed 3 of the 4 FISA warrants authoring illegal surveillance of Donald Trump's campaign, including wiretaps under Barack Obama. All people who signed those warrants, including James Comey, went before the Senate Judiciary Committee and said they wouldn't have signed them if they knew the Steele dossier was fake. But there's one problem with this. FBI personnel created a spreadsheet reviewing the dossier's claims, sentence by sentence. They came to the conclusion 90% of the Steele dossier was not credible, meaning fake. So they all knew it was fake, but they signed the FISA warrants anyway. We now know the Steele dossier was orchestrated by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Treason. Then Trump put this out, pointing to Professor Aradis Genium. Declassified FBI files claim Obama lied about knowing Hillary Clinton's use of an unsecured private server, as he allegedly used the same server under a pseudonym. Clinton's advisors are quoted saying they needed to clean this up due to emails not using official domains. The Post suggests that FBI Director James Comey avoided pressing further in the email scandal to avoid implicating Obama, who it claims conducted illegal activities off the books. That's very, very interesting. So think about this. Comey, Brennan, Obama, Hillary Clinton. Trump is just continually letting everyone know who's involved in all of this. Because again, all roads lead to the renegade. And remember, Obama picked his name. Now, the other thing that we could see, and people are very upset about this, that nothing's being done. Where are all the rest? And we mentioned this before. Again, Pam Bondi was put into place to set everything up. Grand juries take a while, especially on cases that are very complex. They can last from anywhere from a month all the way up to 18 months. And again, these cases are very complex. And yes, they're gathering evidence. When you see the indictments come out, these indictments didn't come out because they started right at that point. The indictments come out after the grand jury looks at all the evidence. And think about it. Are you really concerned with the arrest? Comey turned himself in. They released him. Why? Because there's a grand jury. And he's going to be brought to justice after the trial. So just arresting people is not going to do anything. The more important thing is getting the grand jury to say, yes, these people can stand trial. They are guilty. It's a federal crime, remember. Brian Cates says, setting it up for Todd Blanche. I mean, if you think she was keeping the DOJ paralyzed for a year and Blanche unfroze all this and got all this done with the clock starting once Bondi left, you really don't know how this thing works. You haven't seen a real transfer of executive branch power in your lifetimes. Until the last year, that wasn't a real DOJ. That was an organized crime unit. Bondi was sent in to invade it, remove the government gangsters embedded in it, and completely restructure it and take it over and get it ready for all the stuff you're watching over the past 5 weeks. She did her job. And when you see the indictments coming out, well, this is from the grand juries that she already empaneled. So her job was to do that. Then Trump put in a temp. It's the Scaramucci model. And once again, what can a temp do? Remember, he doesn't have to worry about getting confirmed. He doesn't have to worry about any of that. And Trump actually kind of confirms this because he put this out on Truth. He's pointing to Shelley. How much evidence of treason does the Justice Department need before making some arrests? Do better, DOJ, at Attorney Todd Blanche. Trump says they are working hard because you have to remember, we have one chance to do this and we must do it right. We must follow the rule of law. And that is exactly what we're doing. And this is why Trump is saying they're working hard. They're putting everything together. They're putting in the hard work right now. You just don't see it because, again, they don't publicize grand juries. Hey, by the way, we have a grand jury and guess who's being investigated. They don't do those things because, again, if the grand jury doesn't find any information, they don't want to hurt the person's character. So this is why grand juries are kept a secret most of the time, especially in these cases. And you want to keep these people in the country. You don't want them to run. Think about that for a second. Now, think about this. Trump now is making it possible for we the people to win the midterms and to have more seats in Congress. And you can see the Supreme Court is continually clearing the way for many states to redraw their maps. We see Alabama right now. They're going to throw out their current rigged congressional map, and now they're going to redo it. You can see Mark Elias, Sotomayor, and the rest. They're angry. They're panicking. Mark Elias says the U.S. Supreme Court has allowed Obama to select a different map for this year's congressional election in a stunning last-minute move to interfere with another state primary election that has already begun. Yes, because the maps before were rigged, just like the election system is rigged. But you can see they're panicking right now. And I do believe at this point in time, the people are prepared and ready to accept how the elections were rigged. Rasmussen Reports put this out and said, the witness also testified that Dominion systems were built with Chinese components and designed in part by former Smartmatic engineers, the same engineers who built a system specifically designed to steal elections. His conclusion was blunt. Dominion systems were not secure and aren't audible in U.S. elections. Yet, the legacy media has given this sworn federal court testimony exactly zero coverage because acknowledging it would require asking questions the press has decided it doesn't want answered. Remember, it was Dominion voting systems that sparked the most controversy after the 2020 election. Trump, he put this out on Truth, pointing to Real Robert, and says, Dominion forensic images confirm beyond a shadow of a doubt that an anonymous user logged on to the election management system remotely in Antrim County, Michigan on November 5th, 2020, and tampered with the database of the 2020 election. We've now proved that there was direct access to the Antrim County election management system. On November 5th, we can see in the forensic images that an anonymous user logged on to the EMS remotely with escalated privileges and made changes to the database while they were trying to retabulate the election. Additionally, the Dominion forensic images also confirm the black solid boxes on the side of the ballots were deliberately tampered with in order to generate an automatic error or adjudication in Republican ballots only. On the side of the ballot, there are these black boxes. There are 59 black boxes on the side of the ballot. We now see within the forensic images that in Antrim County, those blocks 15, 18, 28, 41, and 44, were intentionally modified. The height, width, shape of those blocks were intentionally modified in order to generate errors. In other words, Maricopa County, the Arizona 2022 general election, was rigged, just like all the other elections. Now, again, when you see all of this and you see the whistleblower from Venezuela, all coming out, showing evidence, producing the evidence. Remember, Trump has all the evidence on his side from the military. And now that they have the ballots from Fulton County, now that they have the information from Maricopa County, Trump is going to show everyone, yes, we have the evidence. It now correlates to what we have. They cheated in the election. He's just matching both up to show the people that, yes, they did cheat. Now, are the people ready for this? I do believe so. Were they ready in 2020? No, not at all. Rasmussen Reports put this out and said, Last year, it was reported that a Venezuelan engineer whistleblower has provided sworn testimony in federal court that they had previously successfully accessed American electronic election systems to interfere with the election results without detection. The question is, how concerned are you about this situation? All voters, 47% very concerned, 23% somewhat concerned. So we have 70% of people that are concerned about this. And let's break this down by party now. Democrats, 65%, Independents, 61%, GOP, 85%. All voters, 70%. Here's another question. How concerned are you that electronic voting systems may allow votes to be changed remotely through internet connections during voting? All voters, 33% very concerned, 30% somewhat concerned. 63% are worried that the votes can be switched. So the people, they are now on board with all of this. It took many, many years to make people see this and understand this. Even the Democrats. So think about why Trump has taken this path. Why do you think he's gotten the people on his side? Because again, he's building the counterinsurgency. To go after who? To go after the deep state players. And who is he going after? Joe Biden, he's done for. He's going after Hillary, Obama, Soros, and many others. And think about this. Tulsi Gabbard is letting everyone know that Joe Biden wasn't calling the shots. Other people were running the country. Trump, he put this out on Truth, and he's pointing to private reports. Bombshell from DNI Tulsi Gabbard. Joe Biden wasn't calling the shots, and neither was Kamala Harris. The real power behind the throne, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Anthony Blinken, Jake Sullivan, and the deep state cabal, signing documents with an auto pen while running the country into the ground. Unelected insiders and forever war profiteers pulling the strings the whole time. This is why America was on the brink. Thank God for President Trump draining the swamp and putting real leadership back in charge. What do you think? Treason or just business as usual for the elites? So that's interesting. So now we've confirmed that Obama and the rest were running the country. Then Trump put this out, coming from Josh Dunlap. U.S. Senator John Kennedy is now publicly demanding that Barack Hussein Obama return $120 million that he allegedly earned through the ownership related to Obamacare. He allocated money under his own laws using taxpayer-generated prestige, Kennedy said, calling it an abuse of public office and blatant influence. Obama has 3 days to respond before John Kennedy says the matter will be referred to the Department of Justice for formal review. There's nothing ethical or legal about this, he says. Absolutely. And then Trump put this out, and he's pointing to Promethean action. Obama just had his worst week in years. His hand-picked British puppet Keir Starmer got buried in UK local elections. The Virginia Supreme Court toss has rigged 10-1 gerrymander, and the Callias ruling killed race-based map rigging nationwide. And he's losing his terrorist army out in Iran. He lost Venezuela. Everything that was in place is being dismantled. All roads lead to the Renegade. Now, the other thing that's very interesting, and of course this has to do with Obama, Trump now is redoing the reflecting pool. And the fake news is making a very, very big deal about this. But let's go back a little bit in time. Remember, Obama spent $34 million renovating the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. And it looked like nothing was done. I wonder how much of this money was laundered, because the reflecting pool looks like it did when he started. And actually, people agree with this. Take a listen.
Cleaned and opened up a month ago. Looks like nothing was done. It's real nasty.
The pool was closed for almost 2 years and underwent a $34 million renovation project.
It'd be nice if it was clearer water so that one could reflect without seeing the algae.
The first thought was, oh, that's kind of nasty.
So basically, people didn't really see the difference after Obama was done. Alec Lay says, Trump versus Obama reflecting pool renovations. Obama, 2010 to 2012, $34 million, 2+ years, 5.85 gallon of gas. Afghan war, 10th year. Trump, 2026, $13 million, 2 weeks for the reflecting pool. Gas is only at $4.50 a gallon. Iran, 10th week. Guess which one the media cried about the loudest? Of course, Trump. And Trump, his reflecting pool is going to look clean and nice. It's going to be absolutely amazing. The Iran war is going to end. Gas was still lower under Trump than Obama. And eventually what's going to happen is gas prices are going to plummet. Because think about what Trump has done. He has now decentralized the entire energy system. And when it's all said and done, you're going to see prices of gas drop to where we've never seen them before. I do believe they're going to go below 3, and in some cases, they're going to go below 2. Now, of course, that will be a little bit further down the line, but I do believe we're going to see gas prices snap back to where they were, and in some cases, they might be below $3 a gallon, and people are going to see this. So everything that the fake news is trying to do to protect Obama and the rest, it's all failing. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said, the failing New York Times, which is one of the worst newspapers anywhere in the world and is losing subscribers on an hourly basis, is now at it again. Just like they covered my landslide 2024 presidential election victory inaccurately and without shame, constantly making major mistakes and incorrectly predictions at every path along the way, they're now trying to justify Obama and Biden's expensively botched attempt at fixing the long-broken, unsightly, and unsanitary reflecting pool that now sits majestically between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. They squandered at least $55 million haplessly trying, with no chance of success, to get the reflecting pool to work. Instead, they made it worse, keeping it closed for years and ending up with a leaking, smelling ode to both of their failed administrations. It was an embarrassment to Washington, D.C. and to our country itself. Despite the vast sums of money spent, they never got the pool to work, and cosmetically, it was a total mess for all to see. Now, along comes Trump, who is asking by many patriots if I can fix it. The answer is a resounding yes, and for a tiny fraction of the cost. I work with our now strong Department of the Interior and explain to them that we should view this as a highly sophisticated swimming pool, not the leaking, dilapidated facade, joints and all, of a building. Instead of taking 4 years to build at a cost, granite pavers and all, of $400 million, we would construct a far superior reflecting pool for $5 to $6 million and could complete the project in 2 weeks rather than 4 years. What a difference in time and money, and for a far superior end result. This is not just a paint job, like low-life reporter David Fahrenthold said of the New York Times so inaccurately and maliciously stated. It is deeply complicated work of smart and beautiful construction. It won't leak, it will shine, and be the pride of Washington, D.C. for decades to come. I saved more than $390 million and 4 years of no mess and was, of course, given no credit by the biased New York Times. Also, I didn't give out the contract. Interior did. To a contractor I did not know. And I've never used it before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. Now think about it. Trump has to spend the money to redo what was already done. And he has to do it the right way. Instead of saying thank you for repairing what Obama did, because what he did didn't work. They should be sitting there going, Obama wasted all this money. Now we have to spend more money to fix his mess up. And once again, you could see the deep state players, they don't want the U.S. to succeed because they're afraid. If the U.S. succeeds and becomes great, which it will, everything they tried to do goes down the drain. And what's very interesting is Scavino, he put this out on X, and it's Pavarotti singing Nessun Dorma once again. And at the end of the song, and this is the part of the song, it talks about how in the end, Trump will win. Of course, it doesn't say his name, Trump, but in the end, he wins at dawn. And this reminds me of Post 51. This video is 51 seconds long, and this is November 2nd. And it says at the bottom, Dear Patriot, we hear you. We hear all Americans such as yourself. The time has come to take back our great land. The time is now. Rest assured, POTUS is backed by the absolute finest people alive who are all dedicated to the eradication, evil, and corruption from the U.S. world. Find peace. God is with us. God bless and be safe. The White House. Absolutely. And we're going to see, once again at dawn, Trump is going to win. So at The midterms at dawn, we're going to find out that we, the people, and Trump, we have won. When they try the riots, any other type of distraction, the scare event, at dawn, we're going to find out that we won again. In the end, when Trump goes after these people and rounds them up because the indictments come out, and I do believe Trump is timing this, where the indictments come out all at once. Why would you want one indictment for Hillary coming out now, or one for Comey and then another one, 6 months later for Brennan? You know what I would do? I would empanel the grand juries, get the indictments, and spring it on them all at once. Now, I do believe that's probably what they're planning to do. And this is why the deep state players are planning a distraction. It's almost like Trump is forcing them into doing all of that. So this way, it makes it a lot easier to shut it all down instead of doing one at a time and dragging this out. And I do believe at dawn, yeah, we're going to see arrests. Yeah, we're going to see roundups. Yeah, we're going to see the whole deep state system shut down. Why? Because the Patriots are in control. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.